And joining me now in the studio to discuss how the current conflict is playing out in the media, especially the Palestinian media, is Dr. Itamar Marcus, head of Palestinian Media Watch. Thank you very much, Itamar, for being our guest today.
You're very welcome.
Now, what do the Palestinians who turn on Hamas or Fatah television see in terms of the current conflict?
Both television stations have turned into exclusive news stations following the conflict very, very closely. If I start with the Fatah station, they literally are following every bomb with their television cameras, and the people are witnessing the destruction, they're witnessing the people being carried out, they're interviewing the injured literally as they're being taken from the wreckage. And then they have people in the hospitals as well, and they follow the people into the hospitals.
You're talking about what happens in Gaza. Do they show what's happening on the Israeli side?
Not really. They're not. The only way the Hamas is actually showing more of what's happening on the Israeli side. And for example, today Hamas used the expression Israelis who are going into their shelters are like rats hiding in the ground from us, trying to give the impression that they have created a horror and a fear and a terror all through southern Israel. This is the Hamas. Hamas is trying to create a perception of victory, so they are focusing on what's happening on the Israeli side. The Fatah are trying to create a perception of massacre, and they are focusing on what's happening on their own side.
Okay. Now, of course, we know about the conflict between Hamas and Fatah, and we know that Fatah has been very critical of the Hamas provocations against Israel. Does any of that come out in their media coverage? Is there any criticism against Hamas?
Absolutely. There has been. Fatah has a dilemma here. On the one hand, the Fatah wants to support the people and show Israel as the enemy. On the other hand, they don't want to pretend like they're supporting Hamas. So what they do is they don't present Israel's attack as an attack on Hamas. Fatah is presenting this as an attack on the Palestinian people. Their newspapers, for example, have been running gigantic headlines every day. The massacre of Saturday, the massacre continues. These are the headline pictures, and it's being presented by Fatah as an attack on the Palestinian people. The Hamas, on the other hand, of course, is presenting it as an attack on the Hamas.
Okay, now, Itamar, we don't have much time left, but I want to ask you about the foreign correspondents here in Israel who have petitioned the High Court of Justice, demanding that Israel allow them to cross over into Gaza to cover the story from Gaza. Now, from your experience, how closely does Hamas control what the foreign correspondents put out from Gaza?
Well, any foreign correspondent who's going in and wants to also come out will have to be showing the Hamas side of the story. But even beyond that, there was a fascinating article in Al-Ayam just yesterday where the journalist was, for the most part, complaining about the suffering of the people and the suffering in the hospitals. And then he complained about the journalists who he said were not being careful about the sensitivities of the people. And he quoted one journalist who went over to a crying mother over the death of her son and said, "Do something, do some action, hit your forehead, I need some action." So here what he was pointing out is that the journalists are trying to create their own stories or to enrich the stories that they have to make them better selves.
So what you're saying then, if I understand you correctly, is that even if the foreign correspondents are allowed to cross into Gaza, they will not necessarily be giving an objective picture of what's happening there? Is that what you're saying?
No, they can't give an objective picture. I mean, even in the past, not even in wartime, journalists who wanted to stay, and this is not just with Hamas, even from Fatah. Fatah does not allow journalists to present them in a negative way, and they'll lose their credentials.
Right, credentials, if not more than that. Itamar Marcus, thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.